All right, before we get this episode started, after you watch this, if you enjoy it, please remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and my channel. A big thank you to you for that. Now, here's this week's episode. Hi everybody, and welcome to this RO360 trail cam episode. With my new public hunting challenge here in 2023, I'm trying to gather as much data intel as I can on an approximately 255 acre public hunting parcel here in north central Wisconsin. Now, I've taken a first look at scouting this large parcel and getting some trail cam data already. And I've shared some of those experiences with you on a couple of previous RO360 episodes this season. So this is a continuation of that learning curve. Now we're going to take a look at trail cam activity recovered in the month of July on our SD cards. And this time frame covers from July 8th through July 31st of 2023. So let's get it started. First, let's take a refresher look at this 255 acre location. Now this public hunting parcel is in Oneida County, located in north central Wisconsin. And let's also take a quick look at the 3 trail camera setup locations. Number 1 was the top of the ridgeline, number 2 at the waterhole area, and number 3 at a crossroads area. Now this overview gives you a good reference location of just where the trail cams are in comparison to this large area. As you can see with my limited scouting so far, I've tried to centrally locate them in the middle area of this 255 acres. Now, first I want to check the trail cam on the north crossroads area. Now as you may remember from the last video, this was the trail cam that was tampered with. Someone was able to turn the trail cam with the cable lock 180 degrees around the trunk of the tree. It was turned around from facing the crossroads trails and was facing into the trees. So I ended up with only 13 days of trail cam data from July 8th through July 20th when the camera was turned around on the tree. So let's see if we can learn anything about what happened and why. As you can see in the upper right-hand edge of this trail cam picture, it took what appears to be part of a shirt or coat cuff area when the camera was starting to be turned on the tree at 7:04 p.m. on the 20th of July. Now the trail cam did take one additional photo after that on July 24th at 1:35 a.m., showing a close-up of the patch of trees. Now let's see if there's any previous photos that may help shed some light on this incident. The trail cam did capture a series of photos with a person of interest, starting back on 7/13 at 8:32 a.m. Now at first he's walking past the camera in a southwest direction, then stopping to pause for a while, and I believe this is when he sees the trail camera. Because after this, he appears on 2 more trail camera photos about a minute later with his hood pulled up over his head, walking away towards the northeast trail. Then, in a second picture taken at 8:35 a.m., it shows him walking from the southern direction on the right-hand side of this picture, apparently heading north. Now, his movement patterns and actions don't seem to make any sense to me. Now, 6 days later on July 19th, just 1 day before the trail cam incident, this same person of interest shows up on the trail cam photos again. In a series of photos taken between 7:46 a.m. and 7:47 a.m., he is again walking in the southwest direction, apparently walking past the trail cam. I noticed his hood is up over his head again. Then, in the very next minute, 2 photos are taken as he is walking away with a dog on a leash, back going on the northeast trail. It was odd that he only walked as far as the trail cam location, then turned around to head back going away. I believe he took this walk 6 days later to see if the trail cam was still on the tree. Now, all the previous suspicious activity around this trail cam site ties into the same person of interest on the day of the trail cam incident. It starts with a couple of dogs showing up on 2 trail cam photos taken at 2:59 p.m. on July 20th. But one dog in particular looks familiar. The lighter colored dog on the left in both pictures is the same dog that was on the leash held by the person of interest just the day before on the morning of the 19th. Then, a series of pictures taken at 3 p.m. shows the person of interest wearing tan bib overalls and a dark plaid shirt walking away on the northeast trail. He's leaving the area with the dogs following him. Now, these photos show him nowhere near the trail cam. But watch what happens next. The person of interest, still wearing tan bib overalls and a dark plaid shirt, returns to the trail cam area 3 hours and 45 minutes later at 6:44 p.m. with 3 dogs, 2 held on leashes and 1 on the left-hand side of this photo in the tall grass. Now, he apparently walks past the trail camera in a southwest direction. And note that the one dog is still in the left-hand side of the photo in the tall grass, and the timestamp is still at 6:44 p.m. The next photo taken by the trail cam is taken at 7:04 p.m., some 20 minutes later, as the camera is starting to be turned around, and the shirt or jacket cuff is seen in the upper right-hand corner of this photo. Now, all I can deduce from these various trail cam photos is that this person of interest was the only person to show up in this time frame in this area, and that he did tamper with my trail cam. But why? Now, I could speculate that he was involved in poaching wild game out of season or without a license, or it could be for a number of less innocuous reasons. But it is being an unethical hunter that is the number one reason. And I guess this experience I'll have to chalk up to my learning curve about hunting on public land. Okay, now that we've figured out the story behind the tampering with the North Crossroads trail cam, let's take a quick look at the SD card data intel from the available 13 days. Now, we accumulated 235 deer photos over the 13 days, and the camera was set with burst photos of 3 sequential photos every time the camera was triggered. So, after weeding out multiple sequential photos, there were 67 single photos of deer activity. Now, of those 67, 48 photos were of doe, or 71.6%. There were 16 photos of bucks, or 23.9%. And there were 3 photos of fawns, or 4.5%. Now, as for the bucks, there were 4 photos of 10-pointers, 5 photos of 8-pointers, 3 photos of 6-pointers, and 4 photos of 4-pointers. Not bad bucks and buck activity for a short 13-day data set. And of all those bucks, hey, 75% of them were definite possible shooters. So let's take a look at some of the selected highlights of the buck encounters with this North Crossroads trail cam. The first buck, a 6-point, on the left-hand side of this photo, showed up on 7/9 at 8:21 p.m. By 8:23 p.m., he was on the move going west, when somehow the trail cam caught his attention. Next, on 7/11, we have multiple bucks, a 6-point in the center and an 8-point on the left-hand side of this photo. Now the 8-point closes in, but there is no confrontation. The 6-point holds his ground, feeding while the 8-point joins him. By 8:42 to 8:43 p.m., the two of them are still feeding side by side on the right hand of this photo. As they move off going south, a new group of bucks shows up just a minute later. It's now 8:44 p.m., with these 3 bucks being totally comfortable with each other while they're feeding. Now they continue to feed as they move out of the crossroads area along the northeast trail. Now this 10-pointer makes a nocturnal appearance at the crossroads on July 15th at 9:25 p.m. Now, he didn't get to be a 10-pointer by taking a lot of daylight strolls in the open like this, as opposed to this unexperienced 4-point spike buck who makes an early morning appearance right in front of the trail camera at 5:56 a.m. And remember what I just said about that 10-point buck? Well, it sure looks like this is the same 10-pointer making an early morning appearance at 8:12 a.m. just 3 days later. Now, here we capture one of those few daylight strolls the more experienced older bucks take. He surprisingly hangs around in the open for around 4 minutes, checking things out cautiously. So, guys and gals, these big guys are susceptible to making a few daylight shooting hour appearances. You just need to get out as often as you can and be in the right place at the right time. Well, that's it for the Crossroads Trail Camera area. After having the camera tampered with, I removed it from that area and found a new location. So, next, let's check out the trail cam highlights from the Waterhole area's trail camera. Now, I'm going to provide a very limited data info for the Waterhole area. After eliminating the sequential photos from the trail camera and other blank photos, and of course photos of me setting up and removing the SD cards, we ended up with 52 photos of single deer. Now there were 29 photos of does, or 55.8%, and then there were 18 photos of bucks, or 34.6%, and then there were 5 photos of fawn at 9.6%. Now, one interesting anomaly that was at this trail cam was that 41 photos, or 78.8% of all the deer photos, were taken between July 8th and July 18th, a total of 10 days. And only 11 photos, or 21.2% of all deer photos, were taken between July 19th and July 31st, which was 11 days. Now, something drastically happened between July 19th and July 31st to stop the deer from coming to the waterhole. Now, don't forget I had goofed up the AM and PM timestamp on this trail cam. When the timestamp shows AM, it's actually PM. And when it shows PM, it's actually AM. Now, just keep that in mind when viewing these trail cam photos from the Waterhole area. Just remember, flip-flop the AM and the PM for the Waterhole trail cam. The other trail cams are set correctly. I apologize for this inconvenience. Now, the first activity at the Waterhole trail cam starts on July 8th at 8:06 p.m. with this 8-point buck. Now, it seems he hears the trail cam go off when the picture is taken, and he focuses on it as he approaches it. But he becomes less interested while he starts to feed on the grasses and plants right in front of the trail cam, and he finally moves off. Now, about 45 minutes later, at 8:53 p.m., that same 8-point buck appears again, this time stopping in the waterhole, then turning to snack and walk past the trail cam, heading to the southwest. Now, after this, I'm not going to do voiceover descriptions of the rest of the whitetail activity at the waterhole. I'll pick out some highlights and put in a little background music. So enjoy the show. Next, let's take a look at the final trail cam, which was located at the ridgeline area. Now this area was the most active of the 3 trail cams, capturing 116 photos of single deer. Again, after weeding out all the sequential photos and other blank or miscellaneous photos not containing any wildlife. Now, of the 116 photos of single deer, there were 60 photos of doe, or 51.7%. There were 42 photos of bucks, or 36.2%. And there were 14 photos of fawn, or 12.1%. Now, I'll sum up the statistical data for all 3 trail cams for the month of July after this last trail cam review. Again, I'm not going to do a voiceover description of the whitetail activity at the ridgeline. I'll pick out some highlights and then I'll add some background music to them. So let's go. Check these out. Now, I know that I said I wasn't going to describe the action of the whitetail, but this next sequence of photos over the next 33 minutes from 6 a.m. until 6:33 a.m. was some of the most consistent buck action I have ever seen on my trail cameras. Buck after buck after buck was showing up. You got to see this to believe this. Check this out. That wasn't the end of it. we got a few more buck highlights from the ridge cam. So we've looked at the whitetail activity from the 3 trail cams on this public hunting parcel. Now let's do a little statistical data mining from my rough notes taken from the trail cam photos. Now, there were 230 single deer photos from the 3 trail cams. And of those, there was 133 doe, or 57.8%. There was 78 bucks, or 33.9%, and there were 19 fawns, or 8.3%. So, the doe to buck ratio yield for July in this area is 1.71 doe for every buck. Next, let's take a look at whitetail activity, daytime versus nighttime. Now, as you can see, overall, all whitetail slightly preferred daytime activity by a 51.7% to 48.3% edge. But that was driven by the buck anomaly, with 62.8% of bucks preferring daylight activity at this time, while only 40.6% of does appeared during daylight hours. So, let's dig a little deeper on this buck anomaly of preferring daylight movement over nighttime movement by a 62.8% to 37.2% edge. With more bucks making daylight appearances, let's see at what locations the daylight bucks were most active. Now, in the North Crossroads area, there were 16 buck photos taken. 4 were taken during daylight hours, and 12 were taken at nighttime. So there's only a 25% daytime appearance rate at the North Crossroads area. Now at the Waterhole area, we had 18 buck photos. 10 of those photos were taken during the day and 8 at night. So there's a slight edge to daylight activity at the Waterhole area with 56%. But by far, the Ridgeline area, the most active area with 42 bucks, had 35 daylight photos taken of bucks and only 9 at night. A whopping 83% of buck activity at the Ridgeline were during daylight hours. By a large percentage, if July was bow season, your stand or blind should be in the Ridgeline area. Now, here is the key phrase for RO360's next giveaway.
Well, that's it for this episode of RO360. Now, we looked at the trail cam photos, and I was able to determine how and who tampered with my trail cam at the North Crossroads area. Plus, I reviewed a limited statistical analysis of the data intel from the trail cam photos. Now, I hope by looking at that and watching that gives you the idea that there's a lot more information available on your trail cam photos. All you have to do is take a little bit of time and data mine those photos for that information to put the percentages in your favor come deer season. I guarantee you, you just might be surprised at the story that data is going to tell you. Oh, and by the way, hey, I almost forgot. Make sure you're watching. Our next special episode is going to be a deer hunting gear giveaway. Now that episode will be the next episode released on Rapant Outdoors 360 after this one. So make sure you're watching, follow the instructions, get involved, and get in on a chance to win some great free deer hunting gear. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next Rapant Outdoors 360 episode. Feel free to comment below, or if you don't want to comment in the public eye, we can also be reached at rapantoutdoors360@gmail.com. Now, if you know somebody you think might enjoy this video series, please feel free to go ahead and share this video or this link with your friend. And as always, whether you fish or hunt, remember, practice CCR. Catch, conserve, replenish. Make sure that that resource is available for future generations. See you next time, guys.